Hello, my name is Pamela Schwartz. My colleagues and I represent the Leagues of Women Voters of San Mateo County. I will be presenting the pros and cons for State Ballot Measure 23, an initiative statute that authorizes state legislation of kidney dialysis clinics, establishes minimum staffing, and other requirements. Proposition 23 would require kidney dialysis clinics to have a physician on premises while patients are being treated and require clinics to send quarterly reports on infections to a state agency. It would also require state approval before a clinic could be closed. For those who don't know, kidney dialysis is a treatment that filters the blood in people whose kidneys can no longer function adequately. People with end-stage kidney failure need dialysis treatments to stay alive. Patients usually get 3 dialysis treatments per week, and each one lasts at least 3 hours. So there are approximately 600 licensed clinical dialysis centers operating in California, and they serve about 80,000 patients per month. Under federal rules, the patient's doctor must visit them during dialysis clinic treatments at least once per month. DaVita Inc. and Fresenius Medical own or operate about 72% of licensed dialysis clinics in California. It's estimated that dialysis clinics have revenues exceeding $3 billion. Most dialysis is paid for by Medicare and Medi-Cal, or private insurance. You may remember Proposition 8 from 2018, which tried to limit the profits dialysis clinics are able to make. It was one of the most expensive ballot propositions in California history and was voted down. Opponents claimed it was Service Employees International Union attempting to punish DaVita and Fresenius for discouraging unionization, and they make similar claims about Proposition 23, whereas the union claims staff working at dialysis clinics want to make sure patient safety is prioritized over profits. So they're proposing some additional regulations for dialysis clinics that will be overseen by the California Department of Public Health. The first is that dialysis centers must have a licensed physician on site during all hours of operation unless there is a doctor shortage, in which case the clinic may operate with a nurse practitioner or physician assistant on site. Next, dialysis clinics would have to report dialysis-related infection information to the California Department of Public Health every 3 months. Dialysis clinics would also have to notify the Department of Public Health and get consent if they plan on decreasing service or closing a dialysis location. Finally, Proposition 23 would prohibit dialysis clinics from refusing care to a patient based on who is paying for the patient's treatment. This is important because different types of insurance will pay different rates for dialysis treatments. Medicare and Medi-Cal generally pay less than private insurance. Dialysis companies are currently fighting a law passed in 2019, known as AB 290, that would lower reimbursement rates for dialysis to Medicare levels and require health plans to accept premium payments from charities. The companies claim it is unconstitutional. It's another example of attempts to limit the profits of clinical dialysis centers. It's estimated that Prop 23 would increase costs for clinical dialysis centers and the state. Dialysis clinics would likely have to pay about $100,000 each for clinics to have an on-site physician. If increased rates are negotiated with payers, it would increase state costs by about $10 million per year. And the new oversight responsibilities for the California Department of Public Health would cost something in the low millions of dollars per year. Supporters say that Proposition 23 makes improvements to dialysis patient care by requiring a physician on premises and quarterly reporting of infections. It prevents arbitrary closures of clinics in rural areas by requiring state approval before a clinic can close. And it prevents discrimination against patients by not allowing clinics to treat them differently because of how they are paying for their treatments. Opponents say Proposition 23 would increase costs, forcing closures. Clinics would have to hire doctors to be on premises and would also need staff to manage quarterly reporting to the state. They assert that dialysis clinics are already well regulated by the federal government and don't require additional oversight by the state. Opponents also claim that requiring a doctor to be on premises when the dialysis clinic is treating patients would adversely impact ER and hospital doctor shortages. The proposition does allow for yearly waivers to be issued by the state if a particular area is experiencing a doctor shortage that makes it difficult to find a physician to meet the requirement of having a physician on premises. The Californians for Kidney Dialysis Patient Protection PAC was registered in support of Proposition 23. They raised about $6.1 million from the Service Employees International Union in support of Proposition 23. The opponents are funded by dialysis clinic operators, DaVita and Fresenius Medical Care. You can see that DaVita has spent $40 million, Fresenius spent $26 million, and the U.S. Renal Care spent $6.7 million. Non-financial supporters of Prop 23 include the California Labor Federation and the California Democratic Party, while non-financial opponents include the California Medical Association and the Republican Party. So, to sum it up, a yes vote on Proposition 23 would mean dialysis clinics have an on-site physician while patients are being treated, report data on dialysis-related infections, obtain consent from the state health department before closing a clinic, and can't discriminate against patients based on the source of payment for care. A no vote on Proposition 23 opposes these additional requirements. In other words, a no vote would leave regulation of clinical dialysis centers as it currently is.